everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Backups, a football podcast. As always, I am Hunter Thompson, and I'm joined by Trevor McVeigh today. No Ryan Cato. He's kind of dealing with a family emergency at the moment. So just be thinking of him and his family. So,
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, football fans. Thanks for tuning in. Again, prayers go out to Ryan Cato. We love you, buddy. Hope to get you on this next one. We got some not as much news this week, to be honest. We're going to start with it came out today that it is Tua Tagovailoa time, baby, in Miami, which is kind of surprising to me because they're second in the AFC East. I don't think their record's that great. I think they're 3-3. But I
yeah,
mean,
they're 3-3, but they're
Fitzpatrick,
they're one game back from the Buffalo Bills.
yeah, I mean, Fitzpatrick has played fine. I mean, it hasn't been great this season, but I saw his numbers. It was like 1,200 or 1,500 yards and 12 TDs. I'm not sure how many interceptions, but he's playing well. But I mean, for Tua, I am so excited. He gets they've got a bye week this week, so he gets the time to get even more time under his belt to prepare. And I'm not sure who they come back and play, but I'm super excited to see Tua,
They
my
come back to the
QB2.
LA Rams.
Oh, okay.
Aaron Donald.
That's a tester right there, man. I'm so excited. I can't even imagine. There was an awesome moment saw on Twitter a lot after he got like 6, 7 snaps and like a minute and a half left of the game this past week. And after the game, like an hour after the game, he came out and sat at the 15-yard line and just soaked it all in, which was a really cool moment.
Oh
Then
yeah,
jumping on, last week we mentioned Le'Veon Bell just leaving the Jets, and we didn't get to update where he went. He actually signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. Interesting to me, though, he also had Buffalo Bills and Miami on his list, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I mean, it's like Golden State just adding all these good players. Beyond that, offense is already stacked. So I mean, rich get richer. Good for Le'Veon. Good for the Chiefs. Bad for Clyde Edwards-Helaire fantasy owners because he's going to cut into his snaps most likely. But
yeah,
yeah, pretty wild for Le'Veon to go to KC.
yeah.
Just
I think long term this is a good move for Clyde Edwards, because this season we're not putting too much pressure on him. And I
right.
think it's a great move for Kansas City to make a push again for a second Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just to hit one more news, there's only one winless team left, and that is the New York Jets. Both the Giants and Falcons won this week. The Giants beat the Washington football team by 1 point, and Atlanta absolutely owned the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota this week. So, and
Mm-hmm.
then you go over to the Jets, and they got beat, I believe, 24-0. So,
Mm-hmm.
not great.
Not great at all, man. Um, One thing I saw on Twitter was the whole Adam Gase debacle pops back up every single week. Do you fire him? Do you not fire him? Who knows?
No, you don't. You
I,
want to hear why? You keep him
I
till week 15. So you're like 0 and whatever it is, 0 and 15. I don't know. I guess 0 and 14 because they'll have a bye. So you solidify. You have Trevor Lawrence, and then you fire him around week 15 to week 16 to go ahead and accelerate the head coach process search
yeah,
process.
I definitely get that, but like at the same time, there's no reason for Adam Gase to keep his job. However, if you're truly tanking for Trevor, like if you're done with Sam Darnold, if you're like set on moving on from him, and you're convinced Trevor Lawrence is who we want, then yeah, I mean you might as well. But there's absolutely no reason Adam Gase should get another job after this in the NFL.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't even give him a college job. Uh, wouldn't let him touch a coordinator job either. The man just cannot coach. Like, the only person who backs him up is Peyton Manning. And I think that's the big reason he got that job.
Mm-hmm.
And it has not been, it's been terrible. I mean, Sam Darnold has regressed entirely. The whole team has regressed. They've lost some big pieces,
Mm-hmm.
traded away some of them because they didn't want to be there. So Trevor Lawrence, I am so sorry, buddy. As awful as it sounds, I would still consider staying in school because the Jets are that bad.
I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like I feel like if the Jets make the right hire at the head coaching position, and brought in like a Eric Bieniemy, Josh McDaniels, um, just somebody who is well respected around the league, then it'll be a good move for them in the offseason. They can bring in guys in free agency to help offset the fact their roster is so devoid of talent.
Mhm.
And not to mention all the draft capital they have. I think the Jets' job could be very, very like appealing to some coaches, also very unappealing to others. But I don't think it's that terribly long of a fix if you pick the right coach.
Yeah, man, that roster really does suck. I think like a Matt Rule kind of coach, a guy who's
Who
kind of
they passed on for Adam Gase.
yeah. So like Matt Rule, he's coming to Carolina his first season, and then that roster is not as bad as the Jets, but it's not one of the better ones in the league. But he's had a fantastic first season in Carolina, and I think that would be something the Jets could really benefit from. I can't name a guy off the top of my head who would be a Matt Rule type, but I would be kind of looking that direction if there is a guy there.
If I'm Joe Douglas, I'm doing everything in my power to poach Lincoln Riley or Dabo Sweeney away from the college ranks.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm doing everything in my power to make sure I can get one of the two of them. Like 15 mil a year, yeah, sure, okay. I don't care. Like you have to do something to be able to turn this program around.
100%.
Plus, I think the Dabo Trevor connection at the next level would also be very fun.
Do you think Dabo's DC would go with him? Because he is tied to Clemson. I don't remember
Brent
his
Venables
name. Yes,
or Will Venables.
something
I think
like
it's
that.
Brent. I think it's Brent Venables.
I think that sounds better.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting if Dabo leaves, if they offer him or let him interview for the Clemson job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if he would leave, but I think Dabo would be able to bring in whatever staff he wanted and get whoever he wants.
Another game I want to highlight is good old Houston and Tennessee was absolutely insane. Deshaun Watson had 4 touchdowns and a loss. They went into OT. Derrick Henry finally had a Derrick Henry game this year. 22 attempts, 212 yards, 9.6 yard average, and 2 touchdowns. He had a 94-yard TD.
Derrick Henry is a monster, and I saw something on Twitter, or maybe it was Facebook or Instagram or something. That man hit 21.5 miles an hour on his 94-yard touchdown run. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine a 6'4", 230-pound man coming at you at 20 an hour, and you have to try to tackle him?
Or like you're a DB, you run in the combine, you run like a 4.3, 4.4, and he just starts pulling away from you. I mean, that's incredible. Dude, something about him, like no other running back in the league really pops off like he does to like his extent. Because no other like running backs like Alvin Kamara will get a lot of touches and he's kind of the whole offense. But Derrick Henry wins the freaking Titans games. Like 212 yards, multiple TDs. I mean, when he's hitting in multiple TDs and long runs and you can't stop him, I guarantee their win-loss record when he has like over 140, 150 yards rushing is probably insane.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's absolutely wild, like how he's doing everything. Derrick Henry's just he was so frustrating to watch early on in his career because you could tell he was good when the ball was in his hands, but the way it takes him a while to put it all together was very frustrating. But now we're seeing him as such an elite running back in the NFL, and he's constantly just shouldering the Titans and pushing them into the playoffs, into wins. It's incredible. Like it's so mind blowing to watch in today's league, since it's all passing now. Derrick Henry is still just going.
And then, not to talk too much about Adam Gase, but I'm sorry, Ryan Tannehill spent a good chunk of his career under Adam Gase, and the man has gone to Tennessee and has balled out. He also had 4 touchdowns and 360 yards in a win at home. I mean, The guy, I mean, him and that Tennessee OC, I mean, he's got to be looking at head coaching jobs here soon because that offense, once he gets that run established, and it's going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
I like him.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think Tannehill's really been showing out in Tennessee. Definitely proving that I was wrong about him in our quarterback rankings episode when I said he was not that good.
I
So
mean,
Tannehill, I take
speaking
that
of
back.
being wrong, I mean, I unfortunately had connection issues last week. I'm sorry, folks. But I think I did hear where you and Cato had kind of hyped up Andy Dalton a little bit.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah, you want to tell me how week 1 went under Andy Dalton?
Yeah, that went so badly. Andy Dalton did not look anything like the quarterback who he was the week before when he filled in for Dak.
I agree.
So I really just don't know what to say about Dallas anymore at this point that hasn't already been said.
That division is so wild.
Dallas is leading the division with 2 wins.
Oh
2.
no.
This could be the
Oh
year that
man.
we see a 6-10 team in the playoffs.
Which would be unprecedented, I believe.
Like
Oh my gosh.
this 6-10 team in the playoffs would just blow my damn mind, bro.
I mean, if we're doing statistics, Kyler was only 9 of 24 for 188 yards, but he had 2 TDs. And he had 1 rushing TD. So I don't know how he pulled that off, but honestly, that's not a very great game. Then Andy Dalton threw the ball 54 times and with a touchdown and 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
Not great.
No, not good at all. I like to think that Andy Dalton will turn around for the Cowboys and that, we can see him start to put up good numbers in the Mike McCarthy offense, but who knows at this point,
Mm-hmm. All right, dude. Another thing that I am shocked at. I mean, it's been a kind of a thing on Twitter too. The Chicago Bears keep winning somehow. I don't get it. Neither does anybody else. It's the most mind-boggling thing in the league. They're one. Granted, they beat the Lions, the Giants, and Falcons, who didn't get their first win till this past week. But they've also beaten the Buccaneers and the Panthers, who they're not a pushover this year.
No.
Their only loss is to the Colts at home.
Who the Colts are looking pretty solid this season too. Yeah, I really don't know what I ever want to say when I talk about the Chicago Bears because I can talk about the terrible QB play constantly between Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. I can talk about the incredible defense they have, the great secondary that's being shown out by Eddie Jackson, Deshaun Gibson, Jalen Johnson. That's what I'm saying. Like Jalen Johnson was our boy during the pre-draft process. Like we can talk about that. We can talk about the 18 tight ends they have on their roster. We can talk about the resurgence.
Cole Kmet, first TD this week.
Cole Kmet, first TD. That's what I'm saying. There's so many different things we can talk about. But the common denominator of talking about the Bears this season is just constantly, yeah, the Bears somehow won this week, And it just,
I mean, they have a rough next 3 games, though. They play at LA, at the Rams on Monday night. Then they play at home against the Saints. Then they play at Tennessee. Ooh, and then they play the Vikings at home. But then they got Green Bay the week after in Green Bay.
Mhm.
So we're really going to test that 5-1 record the next 5 weeks.
Shit, bro, I wouldn't be surprised if they go into LA and just wax the Rams' ass.
Yeah, LA looked very underwhelming this week.
Goff looked bad. Chicago has a good defense. Put those two together, it looks like Chicago might win. Do I think they're going to win? No, probably not. But would I be surprised at this point? Not at all.
Teddy B had kind of a rough game, too. He had no touchdowns and 2 interceptions on 16 of 29.
Yeah, I started watching that game. Yeah, I started watching that game earlier. And because thanks to NFL Game Pass, I was able to watch it. But
oh yeah,
both teams' offenses looked so painful. So painful.
Oh yeah. I mean, both teams' wide receiver cores are not that great, especially the Bears to me. I mean, you have Allen Robinson, and then was it Jordan Miller? Is that his name?
You
He's
have
decent.
there's Anthony Miller,
Anthony Miller is who I'm thinking of.
who's not bad, and then what's this the third receiver's name? Um,
They've got a bunch of like meh guys. Like
the dude from Tulane.
uh,
I can't remember his name.
I can't remember. They've got like Javon Wims. I don't think Riley Ridley plays. Uh, I don't know. Their wide receiver core is not that great. Carolina's is slightly better with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, but
Curtis
it's
Samuel's still there, and he's still been
Curtis
cheap.
Samuels. But still not that intimidating in my opinion.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I don't know. Both teams are really held back by their quarterback play. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is very much a good, safe, efficient quarterback at this level, and by no means I think is a terrible quarterback. He's just not the guy who can elevate a team to pull off wins in close games.
You think Carolina could be like they could pick like mid round and get like a Kyle Trask kind of deal? Say if they're picking like 16 through 20 range.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we see Carolina taking a quarterback at some point in this draft class, just because Matt Rule might want to get his own guy in this year. He might hold off till next year or the year after when he thinks he has more of a roster put together.
Yeah,
he can potentially leap up in the drafts for an elite name.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, he might even do it this year. But I could very easily see them drafting a guy like Kyle Trask or what's his name, Zach Wilson out of BYU. I haven't watched a lot of film on him, but Draft Twitter loves Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I haven't watched
and it's
him
giving
yet either.
They're giving him first round buzz. Andre Ware even listed him as his number 2 QB in this draft class. Mm-hmm.
There's no way. There's no way.
Apparently, this kid is so good. I've not watched him. I've been excited to get around to watching him, but he's apparently...
I wasn't expecting to like Mac Jones as much as I do. I mean, of course, he's a pure pocket passer. There's not much as far as the out of the pocket that I've seen. But, man, he makes the throws. He's got a good deep ball. He's relatively accurate. And I think he could be a sleeper for a late 1, early 2, if I'm being honest. If he keeps playing like this for the rest of the season, I mean, they're destined to play in the freaking playoffs. So if he plays well in the playoffs, he could be sneaking into late round 1 to early round 2, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing Mac Jones get a lot of top 5 buzz lately, and a lot of people are predicting him to go day 2 in the second or third at some point in time.
Just to clarify, you mean top 5 QB, right?
Yeah, top 5 QB.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear.
Sorry. Yeah, top 5 QB, not top 5 overall. Yeah. But he's been getting a lot of day 2 buzz lately. And I think it's well deserved. He's playing very, very well. He's leading the Alabama offense to arguably heights that they did not reach under Tua.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's any better than Tua, but he might just run the offense more efficiently.
Yeah. I want to talk about Pittsburgh. I mean, they've actually came out and become a legit team. I know I had Roethlisberger low on my rankings a few episodes ago, but that's just I didn't know where he was going to be coming out of that injury last season. They've come out and they're undefeated, and they waxed the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh this week.
Yeah, they beat the shit out of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Although, I mean, Big Ben only had 1 TD, but their running game, James Conner had 20 attempts for 100 yards and a TD. So that's probably his best game of the year.
Do you have the Steelers as a contender or a pretender? Because I know a lot of people aren't quite sure where to put them in the 2, because they are 5-0. They beat the dog shit out of Cleveland, but I think that's just more Cleveland being a pretender than a contender.
I'm looking at the teams they've beat, and a lot of them are pretty underwhelming. They beat the Giants, who everyone knows are bad this season. They beat the Broncos, who actually kind of gave them a fight. Was that the game that Drew Lock got hurt in? I can't remember.
I believe so.
They played the Texans. It was a touchdown game at home. They beat the Eagles, and the Eagles made it close at the end, but it was really Pittsburgh's game to lose, and then they absolutely waxed the Browns. Oh, their next two games are against at Tennessee and at Baltimore. So we'll really get to see how good they are the next couple weeks.
I know our boy Matt Watkins, one of our devout listeners, is huge on the Steelers and is a diehard Steelers fan, and he might slander my name for this, but I don't know if the Steelers are really that great. They have a good defense and they have some good pieces, but this is really their only chance to make a Super Bowl, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do it. Big Ben's 38. Bud Dupree's hitting free agency this year, and he's going to probably take up a $100 million contract. TJ Watt's hitting it the next season or season after, $100 million contract right there. I don't know if the Steelers can keep the longevity of this roster put together and keep the core of it together long enough to make another Super Bowl anytime soon.
Yeah, I see him as a contender this year, though. I don't know. I mean, they're definitely not favorites, of course. I mean, but the classic saying is defense wins championships, which I would argue hasn't been the case the last few years. But I mean, that defense is solid. I mean, any majority of QBs in this league are going to have problems with it. I mean, he's got, like they always do, their skill positions are fantastic. I'm not the biggest James Conner guy, but he's had a solid season so far. And then Chase Claypool has freaking kicked the door open the last couple of weeks and really came onto the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So you add that in, like Big Ben doesn't have to play perfect; he just has to play well enough.
See, my thing is like I just don't know if the Steelers can get in like in the playoffs come January. I don't know if they can go in and face a Patrick Mahomes who, you know how Patrick Mahomes gets in the playoffs. He gets unstoppable. I don't think Big Ben at this point in time, with his arm being how it is, can go into Kansas City and outduel Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the ball, you've got freaking Cleveland, who I thought was looking pretty good. I mean, they won 4 straight, and I thought they were. I mean, they beat. Okay, now looking at it, they beat the Bengals, and the Bengals gave them trouble on Thursday night, and then they beat Washington by 2 TDs. They hit shootout in Dallas, which is probably their most impressive win, and they also beat the Colts last week with Phillip Rivers throwing multiple interceptions again. But I thought with the running game, I guess with Nick Chubb being out, it's not as productive of an offense. But I thought they were looking pretty strong, and then they go into Pittsburgh, and they don't have it that week. So they may be a
Not at
pretty
all.
big pretender as well.
I think we could see Cleveland sneak into the playoffs in the wild card, but they could be a one and done probably in the wild card. Baker, I don't know if Baker is the answer at quarterback there. I don't think he's a bad quarterback by any means, but I just don't know if he's fitting what they're doing right now or what Kevin Stefanski's trying to run in Cleveland right now.
Yeah, generally his best game are when Nick Chubb has a really good game. When Nick Chubb runs for over 100 yards and gets a couple TDs, that's when Baker shines. I mean, not all the pressure's on him, but when the run game's not working and the receivers aren't getting as open as he needs them to be, it's never pretty. Like they generally don't lose close games. They're generally blowouts, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be kind of nervous if I were them.
Okay, for sure.
Another game to mention was what there was 2 games on paper that I thought were going to be games of the week, and both of them were kind of duds in my opinion. The first one was the 4 o'clock Fox game, Green Bay at Tampa Bay. Good old A-Rod versus Tom Brady, and man, did this game suck! It was It was so boring. I'm pretty sure the Green Bay scored in like the first quarter. Yeah, they scored 10 points in the first quarter, and they
I
didn't
thought
score
when
again.
that happened, like when Green Bay got up 10 points, I thought it was about to be an utter shit show.
Holy, dude! Tampa Bay scored 28 points in the second quarter alone. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was one of those like before the game when we did our weekly pick'em between all of us here at the backups. I picked Green Bay to win.
I did as well. They were
And
coming off a bye. They'd been hot this season. That was my thinking.
as soon as I hit send on that, I thought about going back and changing the Tampa pick and changing it to Tampa because Tom
They had
Brady.
just come off a close loss to the Bears on Thursday Night Football, so I
And the thing
I
is,
should have expected them to bounce back. What am I
well,
doing?
well, the thing is, Tom Brady also got embarrassed in the media's eyes
Mm-hmm.
that week with the whole fourth down and him not knowing bullshit.
Oh yeah, that was
And
hilarious.
and the fact he lost to Nick Foles and then did not shake Nick Foles' hand or anything after the game.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Tom Brady just got abused by the media this week. So I should have known that he was going to lead a comeback to beat the dog shit out of Green Bay. I should have just known.
Too.
That's what I'm saying. I should have known, and I'm upset that I didn't realize that was going to happen, or that it just didn't click. But it is what it is. Incredibly impressive win though on Tampa's end.
Oh yeah,
Incredibly impressive. Their offense was firing on all cylinders. They looked good. By far the best they'd looked in the season so far.
and the leading receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rob Gronkowski, who got his first touchdown as a Buccaneer this week, which is pretty wild.
Gronk, he never ceases to amaze me in some capacity. He never does. When he retired early, I was kind of amazed by that. When he came out of retirement to sign with Tampa, not really that amazed with that. But when he struggled with Tampa at the start, I was like, oh shit. I was like, Gronk's not Gronk. And then as soon as I finally convinced myself, oh shit, Gronk's not Gronk, he goes out and does this shit.
Yeah. Just to mention another guy in that game, Ronald Jones, who struggled the first couple seasons of his career, really had a breakout game this week. 113 yards and 2 TDs. Kind of carried them. I mean, Green Bay had nothing for him. Then Tristan Wirfs went up against
the Smith brothers.
Yeah, the Smith brothers.
They're not brothers, they're cousins, but either way.
But freaking locked him down. I don't think he gave up a single pressure, let alone a QB hit. The entire game.
He allowed like 0 hurry, 0 pressure, 0 QB hits, zero everything. Like he was lights out. I saw someone talking on Twitter. Maybe it was John Ledyard. How do you say his last? I don't know. But he was talking about how Tristan Wirfs won't get any offensive rookie of the year consideration, but that he should be because he's been that good.
It's just not a sexy position, bro.
I know it's not, but either way, like he's been so good.
And I agree with you.
I think there needs to be a way to give him credit in some capacity. I don't think there's no way that he wins offensive rookie of the year just because he won't, and it'll probably go to Joe Burrow. Maybe Justin Herbert, but probably Joe Burrow.
Nah, man, Clyde the Glide.
No. There's no way, bro.
I know.
No way.
Okay, another team let me go to that other game of the week that I mentioned earlier. So on paper, I thought Chiefs and Bills was going to be a slugfest. I thought it was going to be so much fun. But the Bills they dropped 2 straight, I believe?
Yeah, they dropped 2 straight.
I mean, that game was raining, so it didn't really do it justice, which really sucked. Allen never really looked too comfortable that game. He got it going a little bit more late, but he just couldn't do it. Like even Mahomes looked kind of human this game. Overall, I was pretty disappointed in how it was. I mean, the score shows it as only a 9-point difference, but it really wasn't that close. KC kind of had it the whole way. I just wanted a better game, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, like I'm bummed out that the game was not any better because I wanted to see Buffalo really like show that they're true contenders in the AFC and that they might be able to go toe to toe with the elite teams in the AFC, which I don't think they can yet. I really don't. I mean, their defense is lackluster this season. It's been knocked up with some injuries, but defense has just struggled all the way around. Josh Allen struggled this game. Maybe the pressure's getting to him. Maybe not. Maybe he's just hitting his seasonally struggles that he does. Who knows? But watching KC's defense, which is not even that amazing, but watching the schemes and everything just dominate Buffalo like it did
Yeah, they're
was
looking better.
Kansas City is a force to be reckoned with, and I would not be surprised if they went back-to-back this year and won another Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, they're the easy favorite. Although Clyde the Glide had 161 yards rushing.
Good old Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
That's freaking impressive. I mean, he's having
Uh,
himself a season.
oh yeah, he's definitely looking like, but like there's definitely a reason that he was the first back taken when he might not have been the consensus number one back. I just Kansas City's really good. Everyone else is really not, and I just want to see more of Kansas City this year. They're so fun to watch all the way around.
All right, another take that I have is Philly's going to win the NFC East. I think they're better than what the media is portraying them out to be. I mean, they played the Steelers pretty tough last week. I know it didn't end very well for them, but they played them pretty hard. Like they were in it up until the last TD from the Steelers really put the nail in the coffin. But that was at Pittsburgh, and they played pretty well. And that team is still so banged up, and the roster's not that great this year. So the fact that they're kind of staying in games with good teams, and then this past week, they almost beat Baltimore at home, and who a lot of people think are freaking 1B to the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So I think Philly's on the upswing. I know they've lost 2 straight, but it's to 2 good teams. But their next 3 games, or even 4 games, they've got the Giants twice, Cowboys at home, and then at the Browns. So I can see them really go on a run here and really change the narrative about their season.
Yeah, I don't think Philadelphia is a bad team by any means, but I do not think Philadelphia should be a playoff team. And I think if they were in literally any other division other than the NFC East, we would not be talking about them like that. But I think they're going to win the NFC East, and I think that they are probably going to get in the playoffs and give whoever the hell they play a good game like they always do. Do I think Carson Wentz has his own issues and everything? Yeah, 100%, but that's a topic for another day. Do I think Doug Peterson might not be the best coach ever? Yeah, the conversation for a different day. But everything's so easy for them right now. There's no reason they should not be the winners of the NFC East.
I agree, especially with Dak going down. It just really helps their chances. I mean, Washington's rolling out Kyle Allen, and freaking Giants have Daniel Jones. Carson Wentz is the clear best quarterback in that division right now.
Hold on, do not act like you do not love Danny Dimes. You were so high on him going into the season. I was
coming into this season, and then he's played like absolute Well, he hasn't played horribly, but the problem is this man turns the ball over almost as much as Jameis Winston if you count the freaking fumbles. I mean,
he actually has a higher turnover rate than Jameis Winston if you include the fumbles.
Holy crap, that is insane. At this point, like, it was a problem last season, so you feel like that would be a focus in the offseason. And he hasn't made a change. And I don't understand how you could justify that. I mean, it's a first-year coach, so maybe he'll progress with that over time, but I mean, come on, man. You have to stop fumbling the freaking ball and throwing interceptions.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where it's like when you're looking at Daniel Jones' development, and I guess you could say regression to an extent, because I don't really think he's grown in the offseason. It really brings the question of Joe Judge, could he be a one-and-done candidate in New York? And honestly, you can ask the same question about Dallas, Mike McCarthy potentially being a one-and-done, because of how horrendous the defense is.
If I'm Dallas, I'm calling Lincoln Riley. I've seen Mike McCarthy. I'm out.
I don't know if I'm calling Lincoln Riley yet, because Mike McCarthy has shown that he can be a good coach when he's up in Green Bay. But I would definitely
a few years ago, though.
Regardless, I would be sweating right now if I'm Jerry Jones and be like, oh shit, did I get it wrong? I think I might give him the start of next season too, because there were a lot of injuries and a lot of just issues for Dallas this year. However, think going into next season, you'd have to keep Mike McCarthy on a super short leash.
Well,
Same
even when
thing
they
with.
were completely healthy, though, their defense was the worst in the league.
Mhm. Yeah,
Although,
I don't.
okay, Leighton Vander Esch did miss a few games. I'll give him that, but that's one guy. It's not going to make a freaking 20-point difference on a defense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like firing Jason Garrett made too much sense at the time, and now with Mike
Oh,
McCarthy
yeah.
in there, with Mike McCarthy, we were all like, oh yeah, cool. Dallas is about to be contenders for NFC. Got it, cool.
Well, with the whole narrative with him was that he got a bunch of younger minds in the NFL, and he really got up to speed with how the NFL's run today.
Hmm.
I mean, the offense was fine under Dak. He was having a fantastic year before the injury, but the defense, I mean, there's no excuse. Like, it is bad. Trevon Diggs has had a rough start to this season. Rookie out of Alabama, so
Yeah,
hopefully he can
yeah.
turn it around, but not ideal.
I don't know. Like the whole narrative in the offseason of Mike McCarthy sitting around with a bunch of NFL head coaches talking about like breaking down analytics and doing the whole we're figuring out the trends and figuring out how to compete in the NFL now. That if you do that and then you go and hire Mike Nolan to be your DC, who has had very mixed results in the NFL, but has not had a good defense since 2012 when he was in Atlanta, and that one was like top 20. That wasn't even a good defense. That was
Oof. Yeah, that's a
that's what I'm saying.
bad hire.
That wasn't a good defense. It was like it just was an okay defense. Um, I don't know. I mean, Mike Nolan, like I understand why he has appeal in coaching circles because he's been around the league forever and he's very well respected. But his schemes are dated. They're easy to attack, and we're seeing it week in week out by these new OCs.
Yeah, and then a couple guys I want to mention, a couple rookies. Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins. The past couple weeks have been kind of lights out. T. Higgins, this past week, he had 6 receptions for 125 yards with a 67-yard long. And with a team full of talented wide receivers, and you come out making those kind of plays and that kind of production 2 weeks in a row, I mean, that's a really good sign for the Cincinnati
Mm-hmm.
Bengals. And then T. Higgins was kind of slept on in this wide receiver class because all these other guys were just so good. He would have
Mm-hmm.
been majority of the time he'd be like a number two, maybe even one in some classes. Maybe like Corey Davis, like 2015 year, he might have been the number one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but fantastic for him. Then Justin Jefferson has really, I mean, as good as Higgins has been, Jefferson's been better the last couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks. Him and Kirk Cousins have found a connection, and Jefferson, I mean, he had 9 catches, 166 yards, and 2 TDs this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very impressed. Another thing to really harp on the Philadelphia Eagles, they passed up on both those guys to pick Jalen Reagor, who granted hasn't been healthy this year, but really when he's on the field, it hasn't been that great either. So,
Has Jalen Reagor even played this season though?
yes, he has.
Okay, because I don't remember ever seeing him play. But either way, like it's one of those things where like we were talking about with T Higgins and Justin Jefferson. I think any because they were both our 4 and 5, I believe, our receivers 4 and 5 in this year's draft class behind Ruggs, Judy, and Lamb. And I think in any other year, if Justin Jefferson and T Higgins came out, they would be without a doubt the 1 and 2 receivers in that draft class.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are incredible players. And I think T Higgins got slept on because he's not he's kind of an old-fashioned receiver. He's kind of the big-bodied, not going to beat you super fast. He's just big-bodied receiver who's going to go up and come down with any ball that you throw his way.
For
You're
some reason,
typically.
I have a soft spot for those guys.
Oh, so do I. That's why Sage. That's why like right now at this point in time, Sage Surratt is one of my top 5 receivers when he's getting round 2 buzz from everyone else. But I have a first-round grade on him. But Sage Surratt in this year's draft class looks a lot like T Higgins to me in last year's draft class, and
I
in the
already
same
like him then.
aspects. Oh yeah, but it just blows my mind that teams passed up Jefferson. I can understand them passing up Higgins because he did have those questions about, oh, how fast is he actually, or how like athletic is he actually?
Yeah, then he took the combine off too. I mean, it was kind of
Hmm.
short notice. He didn't really get to prepare for it after the national championship,
Yeah,
but I still would have liked to see him go to the combine. And
yeah.
then his numbers apparently at his pro day weren't that great, which I don't think helped him. But I
Mm-mm.
mean, he's playing pretty well with him and Joe Burrow right now.
Oh, for sure. And I'm really excited to see the connection between him and Burrow over the next few years and watching the two of them grow even more and hopefully turn Cincinnati around.
Yeah, speaking of Cincinnati wide receivers, John Ross has actually requested a trade out of Cincy
That man
after
has no trade
getting
value.
like
What,
6 snaps or something like that the whole game.
bro, that man has no trade value. Like
Well, they tried
he's
to trade him several times during his career, and he's still in Cincy, so that tells you a lot.
well, I mean, the dude's one of the fastest players in football, but
Yep.
he can't catch he couldn't catch COVID right now. Like, bro, there's no way. Like he's so good, but he's so fast. He's not good. He's so fast, but has no hands to back it up. And as great and as valuable as fast receivers are, even if you took John Ross and put him on Kansas City, he'd be useless. Like you can't be a receiver and not catch. It's kind of like Tavon Austin a few years back when we saw Tavon get drafted
Right.
by the Rams, and he kind of fizzled out with them, and then just floated around the league as a career backup. Like
Yep.
that's what's gonna happen with John Ross. He's just kind of around.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a trend because of the Tyreek Hill effect. Like guys like Henry Ruggs. I mean, John Ross, I think, was before Tyreek Hill. But just smaller, speedy wide receivers still make me nervous. Um, that's why I kind of like bigger guys who have big catch radiuses. Like, even if your quarterback's accurate or inaccurate, they can fill those holes, which I like.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hit on one more game, then we'll go to the little break that we always do right there in the middle. Let's talk about Minnesota and Atlanta, since we're both Atlanta fans and no one's here to stop us from talking about this game.
That's right, Cato. We already talked about the Bills.
Suck it, Cato. Just kidding.
Not really. Love you, bro.
Love you, bro. But yeah, Atlanta came out. They fired Dan Quinn. They fired Thomas Dimitroff, promoted Raheem Morris to the interim head coach, and nobody really knew what to expect. Raheem Morris wasn't really good in Tampa, but I mean he'd been a solid part of the Atlanta staff for the past couple of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota had looked really good in the Seattle game when they went pretty much shot for shot with Seattle.
Yeah, they were starting to heat back up and then ran into a motivated Falcons team.
Exactly, but Atlanta looked like the team they should have been all season this game.
Oh yeah. They finally played to their maximum strength. Actually, looking at the box score, Atlanta scored 10 points in every quarter, which is funny. They won 40-23. Matt Ryan had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Todd Gurley had a meh game, honestly not that great. Julio actually had a resurgence. I think it's his best game of the season. Actually, no, it was his first touchdown of the season. Actually, had 2 of them, 137 yards, 2 TDs. He looked fantastic. I think the story of the day was the Falcons' defense, which has been second worst in the league, behind Dallas the majority of the season, or in front of Dallas, I should say, majority of the season. Rookie AJ Terrell, who Twitter roasted for getting destroyed by Jamar Chase in the national championship. He had a fantastic game, got his first interception of the season. And the bigger story, I mean, the Falcons defense played well because Kirk Cousins didn't play well. He had 3 touchdowns, but he also had 3 interceptions early, and they were ugly interceptions. Just did not play well.
No, Kirk Cousins definitely struggled, and it's really concerning if you're a Vikings fan to see Kirk Cousins struggling like he is, because he is still tied down.
Oh yeah, for another 2 seasons, I believe.
I think so. I mean, at this
point,
point,
a 2-year extension.
I might consider cutting ties with Kirk Cousins in the offseason and just letting going into a full rebuild, However, I don't know if they will do that.
I think this team really missed Dalvin Cook this week too.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook is the key to their offense.
Mm-hmm.
Dalvin Cook's good. He's an incredible running back, but Alexander Madison is typically an okay replacement, but for some reason just could not get anything going this week against Atlanta. Uh, but if you're in Minnesota, is this something to be worried about for long term success? Because they were a team that's some predicted to win the NFC North and go back to the playoffs again. Is this a long term issue, or is this just a hiccup season where they could bounce back next year and be perfectly fine?
I think I've said it a few episodes ago. Like this team really rides on Kirk Cousins' play. When he throws for 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, and really controls the game, they're a really good team, and you shouldn't really mess with them. Majority of the team shouldn't even or wouldn't look forward to playing them. But when he is playing poorly and he's throwing multiple interceptions, which he tends to do sometimes, it's not great. I mean, he really picked up his play the last like 2 to 3 seasons in Minnesota, making the playoffs. I think was it 2 out of the 3 years or 3 for 3? I can't remember.
I think it was 3 for 3,
Which is really impressive. I mean, I mean they went to an NFC Championship with him, or was that the Case Keenum year? That could have been the Case Keenum year
could
actually.
have been
Yeah,
Case Keenum.
it was actually. I remember.
Yeah.
But overall, he's played pretty well for them over his Minnesota tenure. But this past season is looking pretty rough so far. Hopefully, they can get it back on track
No, for sure.
quickly.
And on the other side of the ball, we got to ask the same question. Atlanta, was this a fluke game where they looked good, or was this a game where you think, oh shit, Atlanta's turning it around and could maybe make a wild card spot?
Okay, I did see on Twitter there's been I think 4 teams in history make it into the playoffs starting out 1-5, and then it hasn't happened since like the 80s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is just my theory. So if anyone's ever like been working at a job and they're kind of just do the bare minimum to get by, and they just have just a fine day at work, you like your boss, but then the boss's boss fires them because they're not getting enough production. So then the new guy comes in and you play harder for the new guy. But I think eventually they'll go back to their old habits and we're going to be bad again. So I really don't expect this to be that much of a team for the rest of the season. I think we'll have like a 3-4 game stretch, and then we'll come back down to earth and start having defensive miscues and miscommunications. And I think we still finish like at best like 6-10.
Yeah, I get that. I
Just
get
my
that for
theory.
sure.
Could be
I get
completely
that.
wrong.
I mean, with Minnesota, like, I think they're gonna. I think Minnesota's about to be bad and have to enter a full new rebuild. And then with Atlanta, I think it's the same thing. I don't think Atlanta's gonna really do anything. But I guess we'll see with both of them. We're gonna pause real quick and go into a quick little break where Cato might hopefully do the thing that he always does. But we'll be back in just a minute.
Hello, football fans. This is Ryan Cato. I know this episode is looking a bit different from normal. I had some things to take care of, but we are back, and I just want to give a couple shout outs and a couple reminders before we get back into the action on this episode. The first and foremost is to follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast. There you'll find all of our episodes posted to any of the platforms you use to listen to your podcast, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, and you can even find us on Podbean where we're hosted. We'll also be hosted for the season on ISN Podcast Network. Shoutouts to Brian Lamb and the ISN Podcast Network. You can give them a follow, as well as follow our YouTube channel. You can find us at the Backups Cast on YouTube, where you'll see all of these videos posted, and you can see our beautiful faces while we record. I think that's enough talking from me, and we can get back into the action.
Welcome back to the Backups, the football podcast. I'm Hunter Thompson, joined by Trevor McVeigh. No Ryan Cato today, but that's all right because we're still having fun without him. We're about to go into the Backups of the Week segment. Trevor, do you want to hit us with your backup of the week?
I think mine's gonna have to be Tua. I mean, he only played like a minute and a half, minute 45, which, I mean, of course, isn't that great. But, I mean, coming off his injury is really impressive because he didn't throw at the combine. Did he have a pro day? I think he had a pro day.
I think
But,
so.
I mean, there was no preseason, nothing to where we've been able to see Tua actually play. And he played roughly like 8, 9 snaps. He went 2 for 2 on his passing attempts, which was fine. But it's just really awesome to see him go out there after breaking his hip or pelvis, something like that. And he was really banged up before that because I think he had ankle injuries, which is part of the reason he broke his hip because he was guarding his ankle that game. So honestly, can't wait. Only reason he's the backup in the week for me is just because I'm so dang excited to see him. It's gonna be nice having a lefty in the NFL again, just because it's gonna be cool. And just really excited for him. See that hopefully lefty Drew Brees if he hits his heights.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm beyond excited to see Tua play. I think with everything going on and like watching Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow both be killing it this season, that's why you have to play Tua now.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool being able to watch him play. Like even though he wasn't like he didn't do much, but it was just cool being able to like watch him get out there and play again. Kind of similar to how Alex Smith was, Cato's backup of the week last week.
Yep.
My backup of the week is actually gonna be JaMychal Hasty from San Francisco. He didn't really do a lot. He had 9 carries for 30 something yards. Not really super impressive if you look at the box score. But when he was running, he was constantly taking those touches, getting a few yards, looking good with the ball in his hands. And plus, he's one of those guys with Raheem Mostert out for a little bit, or at least doubtful for this upcoming week, that we're going to see getting a lot of touches. So I think JaMychal Hasty could be a huge breakout candidate this season or not this season, but this week, I guess, for fantasy upside.
Yeah, it could be a
Because I
fantasy
remember
watch.
exactly huge fantasy watch. I remember when he was in the Senior Bowl, you and me were texting back and forth about, oh, this guy's good, oh, he's kind of looking good. And I remember the two people I texted you about the most, like in terms of running backs, were JaMychal Hasty and Josh Kelly. And you were texting me about LaMichael P. Ryan, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember like I was constantly like, oh man, this kid from Baylor, he looks good. He looks good. And he ended up going to the perfect spot in San Francisco. So I think we could really see him get some good touches this week and potentially take snaps from Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah, both of those guys are going to be somebody to look at for fantasy, especially McKinnon, because when Mostert was out, McKinnon put up solid points, especially in PPR because he does catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. We'll see how much Hasty eats into those touches. But where has Tevin Coleman been all season? I haven't even heard his name all season.
He started off the season getting some touches, but I think he's been hurt.
Yeah, I'm looking up right now.
I was gonna say, let me Google it. I think he got hurt at one point, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's just.
Oh, he's on IR.
Yeah, I think he got hurt.
He played the first 2 weeks. Interesting. Oh, he's got a knee issue. Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, it's not good for him, but it is impressive to see guys like McKinnon and Hasty and Jeff Wilson Jr. take advantage of the touches that they get in San Francisco right now.
Completely agree.
Sweet. Anybody else you can really think of maybe for a backup of the week? I don't really think anybody else showed out. I was gonna say Andy Dalton. Like going into like this, like on Sunday, I was like, cool. I'm excited to see Andy Dalton show out. And then I was like, I can put him as like backup of the week 2 weeks in a row. And then he kind of shit the bed. Bad.
I mean, we can mention how Jimmy G didn't get benched for his backups this week.
Yep. Jimmy G looked good.
3 TDs.
Yeah, he looked good. But that's just the Kyle Shanahan effect. You know, it is what it is. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in this week. Trevor, you got anything you want to say before we cut it out for the week?
Yeah, as per usual, thanks for listening. Keep Ryan in your thoughts the next couple of days. Hopefully, the Atlanta Falcons will win another game. And then just to do a little bit differently, how about we hold on to Adam Gase to tank for Trevor, baby?
That's not a bad thought, but I'm still on the fire Adam Gase train. As always, folks, follow us on Twitter at the Backups Cast. All three of our individual Twitter links are in the bio. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Podbean, our streaming service that we use. Follow us on YouTube, maybe. I don't know, that's something Cato would say. But we're around. We love the interaction. We love the support that you guys give us. So thank y'all. Have a good week, and fire Adam Gase.